So you might have noticed that on this channel I have reviewed almost every single mainline Crash game except for the original trilogy. The main reason is because they're not as polarizing as the PlayStation 2 era Crash games. People either love or hate those games. With Crash 1, 2 and Warped, everyone likes them. Making a video with the title, "Was Crash to Insanity a good game?" makes sense because loads of people have different answers to that question. Making a video like, "Was Crash Bandicoot 2 a good game?" seems a bit dumb. The other reason I haven't talked about these games yet is because I didn't grow up with a PlayStation. I grew up playing the multi-platform Crash games that released on the original Xbox and the 360. I had limited experience on the trilogy for a while, but since then I've 100%ed the original Crash 1. I've done it a couple times on the Insane version as well, including all of the Platinum Relics, so now I feel like I can finally talk about this game. And that goes for Crash 2 and Warped as well. I'll be making separate videos for those games. These videos will not be about one specific version of the game. I'll be using footage of both versions and pointing out changes that the Insane made to the original. So let's begin with the story, because as we all know, you cannot understand Crash Bandicoot if you don't know the deep and incredibly complex lore. This guy right here, Dr. Neo Cortex, is trying to create an army of mutated animals to achieve world domination. This other odd-looking bloke, Embryo, is helping Cortex achieve that. So we can see them try to brainwash Crash, but it doesn't really work out, it malfunctions, and he escapes. Problem is, Crash was not the only Bandicoot they had held captive. They also have Crash's girlfriend, Torna. So after Crash falls out the window and washes up on the beach, the objective is to make it back and rescue Torna. She'll just need to be patient because you'll be dying a lot on the way. So what do you do in Crash 1? Well, it's Crash in its simplest form. You run, you jump, and you spin. That's it. There's no sliding, there's no slide jumping, no belly flopping, there's no Wumpa Bazooka, just running, jumping, and spinning. The next two games in the series introduced a load of new abilities for Crash, a bunch of new mechanics, but going back to Crash 1 does not feel any worse. I enjoy the simplicity of it because the levels in this game are made for that, and the levels just so happen to be very good. Crash 1 is also very simple when it comes to collectibles and how you actually go about completing the game. You progress through the levels collecting gems. You earn a gem when you break every box in a level and finish it without dying. But you'll have to return to most levels at a later point since you don't have access to certain crates until you've obtained the colored gems. Colored gems are found in a select few levels and are earned the exact same way as clear gems. Finish a level without dying and you must have broken every crate. For example, the red gem from Slippery Climb will open up a new pathway in Native Fortress and Road to Nowhere, allowing you to revisit those levels, access new parts of them, and break all the crates that you need to earn the clear gem. One of the biggest changes that the Insane version of Crash 1 made was scrapping the no death requirement when earning a clear gem. This means that in Insane Crash 1, only 6 levels that contain colored gems have to be completed without dying, making this version way easier. This no death requirement was scrapped in the original Crash 2, so the first Crash game is the only game that has something like this. Oh, Crash 4 does too. They got rid of that shit very quickly, which is great because I would not like to play Crash 2 without dying. The other form of collectible in Crash 1 are 2 keys obtained in Cortex bonus rounds. See, in this game you don't just stand on a platform and get taken away to the bonus round. There's specific crates that hold a token of a character's face. When you collect all 3 of them, you'll be teleported to the bonus round. Finishing a Torna bonus round gives you the opportunity to save your game. The Embryo bonus rounds contain a bunch of lives, and there's only 2 Cortex bonuses, one in Sunset Vista and the other in Jaws of Darkness. Both of these contain a key, which is required for 100% completion because they unlock new levels. The interesting thing about these bonus rounds in the original Crash 1 is that they don't contribute to the box count. And that's fantastic because if you fail one of these, you can't retry unless you restart the level. You don't need the crates from them and you can die in them, which means you don't really have to do the bonus rounds. Although you will need to restart the level if you die in the 2 Cortex bonus rounds because again, you need the key from the end of them. Now the Insane Crash 1 actually made some changes to this. Firstly, you can retry bonus rounds as much as you want. They also made it so that the bonus round boxes count towards the total, so if you want the clear gem, you need to collect all the crates in the bonus rounds. While that would be a problem in the original Crash 1, because you can just retry them as much as you want in Insane, it doesn't make it any more difficult. That is the extent of completing Crash 1. Insane added one extra collectible though. Time relics. These were initially introduced in Crash Warped, but the Insane Trilogy decided to add them to the first 2 games as well. And, well, not everybody was a big fan of that. The biggest complaint I see about relics in the first 2 games is that the levels were never designed to be rushed. I can relate to that a bit more in Crash 2 because they added speed shoes, an unlockable that allows you to run faster. That basically is a requirement if you want the platinum times. Sometimes it just feels like the level doesn't really line up when you're going that fast, but in Crash 1 though, there is no new ability, you just have to play the levels quickly. To me, that feels fair because you just have to learn the level and play it well. Though I will say, there are times where I think, yeah, okay, maybe Crash 1 was not meant to be rushed this quickly. Sunset Vista is very generous. I completely fell off of the last climb section and still got a platinum by about 10 seconds. The lab, on the other hand, is a ridiculous time. In fact, I'm not even certain this was an intended time. I think it might have been a mistake. I think it might have been an error because, yeah, there's so many electricity cycles in this game and the platinum time is not playing around. You kind of just like have to walk through them at time. Like the beginning one, you just kind of have to walk through it and hope that you make it through so that you can continue the run. I really don't understand why they made some of them so strict and the others so forgiving. Thankfully, they are not needed for 100% completion. They instead add extra percentage on top of it. Though if you want to complete the game in terms of trophies, then yeah, you will need the relics for the platinum trophy. But they were kind of forgiving on this because you only need gold relics. You don't need a single platinum relic to get the platinum trophy. Gold relics are very forgiving. You won't be bashing your head against the wall trying to get these. Platinum, on the other hand, requires just a lot of patience, time, trial and error, blood, sweat, tears. Of course, all these levels revolve around cycles and platforms going back and forth and not being able to make them in time, and not making a cycle can be the difference between a gold and platinum. I'm glad they decided to add relics to the game. It, just extended the playtime a bit, allowed you to play the levels in a way that you've probably not played them before. I had a lot of fun collecting the platinum relics. Like, just look how happy I am in my thumbnails. Now, as you progress this game, you'll be moving from level to level on the world map. Crash 2, Warped, and the Wrath of Cortex all ditched this in favor of the Warp Room. Eventually, though, we did see something similar to it in Crash 4, where you kind of progress level to level on the dimensional map. It's honestly pretty cool being able to walk across the island and see where you're about to be in the upcoming levels. Warp Rooms are iconic, but I love this format as well. I also love how in some levels you can actually see where you're heading. In the red gem path of Native Fortress, you can see Wumpa Island and Cortex Island in the background. Or in Sunset Vista, you can see Cortex Island in the background along with Cortex's airship, where you eventually fight him as the final boss. That's one thing I love about Crash 1. You start off on Insanity Island, the first few levels are jungle themed. As you get closer to Cortex, you get more machinery, you go through Cortex's power plant, there's toxic waste everywhere. You eventually get to his castle and the levels are just dark and they're filled with deadly traps. I really enjoy this aspect of the game, and don't get me wrong, I love how later games had a wider variety of level themes, but man, this slower progression of themes changing as you move across the islands is brilliant. Now, while you're progressing through the islands, you will encounter bosses every now and then. The bosses in Crash 1 are... they're not the best. They're cool characters, but they're not the best as boss fights. Papu Papu is the first boss, and in the original, he has 3 health points. And all you have to do is jump on his head. It can be over in 10 seconds, maybe even faster. In Insane, they did increase his hit points, so that's something. Ripperoo is the second boss, and might be the most challenging boss in the game, maybe just behind the final boss. Ripperoo jumps across the tiles, and you kind of have to time a TNT explosion so that it blows up as he's next to it. The timing is what makes this tricky, and I think that's what makes it a bit tougher than the other boss fights. Koala Kong is fairly simple. He'll throw rocks at you, but you can actually just stand in one spot and spin them, which makes this fight a lot easier since there's also TNTs dropping onto the arena, so you can't just jump around dodging the rocks wherever you want. Eventually, he'll throw a rock that you're able to spin back at him and deal some damage, assuming you don't hit the minecart. Pinstripe is a pathetic boss. He shoots at you, and you simply have to stand there waiting until his gun jams, and then you walk up to him and spin. It can hardly be considered a boss fight. It's still a very cool character, and it's a cool theme for a boss fight, but It's not much. Embryo just spams potions and mutants. He has a ton of HP as well, but every time you jump on one of his creatures, he takes damage. He transforms towards the end and charges at you, but as threatening as this might look, all you have to do is jump on him. Then we have the final boss, Cortex, which can actually be entirely skipped if you collected all of the gems. You just hop across the platforms and you get to view the 100% ending where Crash and Torna escape Cortex Castle on a bird. Then you also get a bit of an explanation as to what the various bosses and characters ended up doing after these events took place, which is pretty funny. It's a nice little addition. But assuming you actually fight Cortex, you just have to dodge his energy blasts. He's got pink ones that you just have to move out of the way for, you have to spin back the green ones, and you have to jump over or go under the blue ones. It's actually a very good boss fight, definitely a worthy final boss in my opinion. It's not overwhelmingly difficult or anything, but it's a good fight and he has quite a bit of health as well. Beating Cortex shows a different ending where Cortex falls to the ground and Crash and Torna reunite on top of the airship. And after that's done, you've finished Crash 1. The original, at least. There was a level that was cut out from the first Crash game, and it was cut out from the final release because it was considered too long and too difficult. Thing is though, the Crash N. Sane Trilogy decided to bring it back. That level is of course Stormy Ascent. It shares the same level theme as Slippery Climb, but it's so much worse. This level goes on forever. And by forever I mean 3 minutes and 10 seconds if you want the Platinum Relic. Everything is out to get you in this level. The platform cycles are so much faster than anything else in the game. There's so many hazards in this that will trick you into jumping at the wrong time. I don't know, getting the platinum in this took 5 or 6 hours, and when every attempt was less than 3 minutes, that's a lot of attempts. It's the hardest platforming Crash 1 has to offer, and doing it as fast as you can without dying is definitely a challenge. Now, you're not required to beat this level in the Insane Trilogy, which I'm sure a lot of people appreciate. They didn't work it into the game wherever it was meant to be originally or anything. No, it's just downloadable content that you can play if you want to. Thing is though, I definitely recommend it. I think it's a fantastic level. Your first run might be tough and it'll probably take you a while, but once you've learned each individual section of the level, it won't seem like this impossible challenge that you once thought it was. It's a very fun level to complete, and it actually does exist in the original game. You just have to use a code to play it. I beat the level in this version as well, and it is an unfinished level in some aspects, talking about the bonus round that doesn't actually exist. So if you collect all 3 tokens, it will take you to a bonus round and it will crash your game. Just so happens that the final token to the bonus round is right before the exit at the very end of the level, so my game froze at that point and I had to do it all again. But the level itself in the original is all here. It's just as fun to play in the original version. I think if anything it's even more fun because of the weird hitboxes that the Insane Trilogy has. Though I think some people would say that about the entire game. I think there's definitely fans that would prefer playing the original games over the Insane Trilogy, just because of the hitboxes. Example. No. Replay. That shouldn't have killed me, and wouldn't have killed me in the original game. So it just means that in the original Stormy Ascent, jumping over this spike, for example, is a lot easier to do. Whereas in the Insane Trilogy, you'll probably find yourself hitting it more often. But yeah, solid level, and you know what, I'll say it, I think they should have kept this level in the original game. I don't think they should have removed it. I think they should have polished it up and kept it in the final release. Some people, you can let me know down below if you're going to disagree with that. But again, if you've only played the level once, or if you've never played it at all, you've just heard of people talk about it, so you've only watched other people play it instead. Honestly, I think, again, once you've learned it, it's really not that bad. Anyway, I've been yapping for too long at this point. Crash 1 still holds up. Yeah, it's quite simplistic compared to the next 2 games in the series. They added more collectibles, they gave Crash new abilities, introduced different types of levels and gameplay mechanics. Some people will prefer those games because of those things, but Crash 1 not having them doesn't make it any less enjoyable to go back to. It's full of great platforming, fantastic levels, characters, it still looks good on the PS1, it's still fun, and it has a banger soundtrack. A good game will always be a good game, even like, what, nearly 30 years later. And again, this is coming from someone that did not grow up with the original trilogy. It's not nostalgia or anything like that. I wasn't even alive when this game came out. Going back and playing all of these games, yeah, it's still very enjoyable despite how simplistic it is compared to the next two games in the series. Definitely worth checking out if you're a Crash fan that has not played the original game. Whether it be the Insane version or the original, I think both have benefits. The Insane having relics and all that kind of stuff. The original version being a bit tougher, but still think I prefer this version for aesthetics and how the game looks. That being said, thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. I will be making a video like this for Crash 2 and Crash Warped, so they'll be coming in the near future. Definitely subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you all in my next video.